Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well and doing great this morning. Looks like we got a nice session ahead of us. Hope you're all doing well. Morning, Thomas, Jim, Jordine, Jean, Jesse, Orlean. What's going on, everyone? Here we go. Let's take a look. Obviously, we're going to start this off. We'll take a look at the calendar. We saw that we had retail sales, big miss. But right now, listen, it's hard to forecast anything. All data is still almost a little bit irrelevant. Nice to see as it's now coming up how the market reacts, though. Retail sales came in a little bit better than expected. Core retail sales. Now, everyone's in quarantine. They've actually been abusing Amazon, Walmart, things like that. Dollar is reacting pretty positively today, or very positively today, off of the support right over here. That support line we had it at 98.85. Now, I wouldn't have been surprised if we had traded down to 1930 either, but here we are. We're definitely back bid. We had Bank of America come out with some pretty horrific earnings. You could see the equity markets coming off 3% so far pre-market. They open up in about 30 minutes. We'll see what New York does with them. Getting back over to the DXY, we have the US dollar is the strongest and the Australian dollar is the weakest currency today. Now, yesterday during our New York session, we were looking at the Australian dollar pairs. Actually, we focused in on all Australian dollar pairs, saying that all of them were in towards a heavy resistance, and it was time for them probably for us to lean in and for them to roll over. That's exactly what happened. You can see we're coming down here into the support area now on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. We'll get into the specifics in just a little bit, but I just want to, you could see us rolling over across the board. So that was a good luck yesterday by all of us in knowing when to get ready to act over here. Now, what do I want to look at? Let's start over here with Bitcoin. So US indices are down pretty big this morning. Bitcoin is down a little bit, right? It's not selling off or anything like that, but it's down in step with the US indices, which it's been pretty tightly correlated with of late. But this is the pattern that I'm watching over here at this little channel. This is a bull flag happening right now on Bitcoin. It says the Australian dollar, US dollar. This is Bitcoin. And you could see this, the bottom channel support comes in right around 6,400. You could see this little bit of support area around also 6,480. I think that if price comes down, that's a good place to lean into Bitcoin to go ahead and to buy. A breakout of this bull flag will probably send us back over this trend line, this lower trend line, which is now resistance, getting us back into the channel pre-halving. And over the next 30 days or 28 days now, as we get closer to the halving, yes, I am counting down. Maybe we could, even get back up towards 8,500 or 9,000. I would not be surprised. Nevertheless, this is the pattern to focus in on right now in Bitcoin. You're watching this bull flag. A break out to the upside is going to lead, I think, to a nice move on Bitcoin, whether it's a breakout that you play or a leaning off of this support area of the channel, lower end channel support, as well as horizontal support. That looks like the place to play Bitcoin. We'll look at the S&P in just a little bit. It's right now coming down, and it has what looks to be a bearish engulfing pattern, most likely in play. You could see that we're testing yesterday's lows yesterday. Is that an area of support? You have this resistance right over here, so it's a little bit of support. This is the support I have down. It's all the way down at 26, 28. Some pretty cool news yesterday. Yeah, this is the comment so far of the day, right? Markets we had a tsunami this morning, and it's awesome. There's some really nice setups in the market. Love to see the market volatility coming back into the market. And guess what? It's coming back into the way that we expected it, right? This is what we've been waiting for. This move up has been, I'm just looking at the S&P here. This mirrors all, whether you're looking at any risk off asset, Australian dollar, Japanese yen, Australian dollar, Swiss franc, yada, yada, yada. It all mirrors it pretty well. And, this is ultimately what our base case has been. We came finally up into this area of interest, and here's where we're getting the first look at rolling over. Now, it doesn't mean that that's what necessarily is going to happen, and that all of a sudden we're going to come down and magically test the lows. Because what you logically should happen doesn't mean it's what's going to happen. We just need to continue to sit in our zone, follow this on a swing trader's time frame. And that's the best way for us to approach things. Gold is off a little bit, right? Now, you could say gold's off a little bit, and that's completely accurate. Gold's off just a little bit. But look at the move it's put in from over here at the last test of support at 1640 all the way, boom, to 1745. It hit almost 1750. And yeah, it's just off a little bit. Is this the place to lean into gold? Not yet. Just let it figure itself out. Let it turn neutral here. Let it consolidate, and then we'll try to catch the next leg, whether it's up or down. There's plenty of time. There's no need to go ahead and feel like you're missing out and FOMOing. There's just so much opportunity, and that opportunity comes when we actually spend our time analyzing the market, waiting and picking our spots. And we have over here the euro US dollar. I have this little thing marked on red here. Hanero sent over a chart for us to look at, which we'll get into a little bit later in the session. Looking forward to that. I haven't even looked at it yet, so we'll go in it with fresh eyes together. So here we are. What else we see here? By the way, if you remember, Blair was super positive and encouraging weeks ago, saying, just keep hanging in there, doing what you're doing, and see growth. We had last night a video published on the channel covering the S&P, giving a market view on that. And for this channel, it had a lot of views overnight. It had 3,000 views overnight, which is a lot for our channel. And added about 100 subscribers. And as everything, whether it's your trading ability, whether it's your trading account, it's first gradually and then suddenly, right? It's all that work, all that growth. It hits a point where it's like a ball rolling downhill, and it starts first off slowly, and then all of a sudden it picks up speed and momentum, and then really starts crushing it. So anyway, you all are, I wanted to share that with you. It was pretty cool. We're looking here at the euro US dollar. This is the 8-hour. This is the channel we were watching yesterday. It turned out we only got as high as this resistance over here. And then we've broken down out of the channel. This is pretty cool if you watch this on the 30-minute chart. And why I say that is because we said a couple of things yesterday during the live session. First of all, we said I was not looking to get short here unless we came up towards the upper end of this channel and or resistance. If I was going to play off of resistance, what I was looking for was either a breakdown out of this channel, and we said over here that we would not do that because there was not enough room. Over here, yeah, that was possible, but look over here. Broke down out of the channel, came down into the support, bounced, and then broke it, right? This is the entry I want you all to focus on, right? After it broke down the support, what happened? Retraces, test that broken support as resistance right here, right? And there's your entry, or there's your entry, right? And that's the safe trade, right? That's an easy trade. You see that happen over and over again on this channel. That's the go-to setup. It's the safe setup, right? Is this the better entry? Yep. Anyone that takes a trend line break, as long as they have their stop above the bar that broke it down, that's an awesome trade as well. And the better entry, when I say better entry, it has more potential, more profit potential in the move. This over here, this portion, that's the safer entry, the high probability trade, which is the better trade to take. They're both good. They're both good ones. All right. Trend line, a breakdown horizontally, I don't like it all. Trend line breaks. All right. I can see that. So that's interesting to look at over there. Beautiful, Jim. Thanks, Pabs. I do appreciate that very much. So how do you? So I say this sincerely. So, but first of all, I keep my we're about 22 minutes from the U.S. equity markets open. I have to. Oh, New York is tricky. They're a tricky bunch. Have to keep their eye on them to see what they do. Often you'll find, it used to be that most of the turns in the day came towards the London close. Now it seems that a lot of turns in the day come, about an hour before U.S. equities open as New York traders hit their desk. So they're a tricky bunch. We have to watch whether or not we get some further continuation. Yeah, we did have a little bit of numbers. It doesn't really matter what the numbers come in at. It's more about what they're doing. So that's why we follow the price. We'll figure out what's going on. This is nothing more than a healthy pullback at this point after breaking that resistance. This is what we have to watch on the retest down here to see whether or not we hold, and we'll keep tracking that. So I say this with all sincerity and honesty, Zeron. And you're asking, how do you get a better view on macro changes so that you could, and really good insight on your part in the fact that you as a trader want to be able to see what's coming rather than chasing after momentum. Because one of the biggest mistakes that traders make is that they chase after momentum. And if you find yourself getting into a trade because the price is going down, I need to be in that, and you get into the trade, and then the trade goes against you, you're chasing momentum. So I say this with all sincerity: the best thing you can do is continue doing what you're doing and hang out in here, right? Because the more that time you spend in here, I really think it's going to develop a lot of your skills, including how to anticipate rather than chase. And that's really important. And it doesn't come from me just giving you one sentence. That comes from time spent. And I do think I've seen you in here for about a week now, or a few days. After a few weeks, or I really think that's when things will start becoming clear for you. And it's exactly about that. I could bring it back to really strong basics, where is if you're buying off support and selling off resistance, you're not going to be chasing after moves. You're going to be ahead of them. But obviously there's a lot more to it than that. Let's keep going. I was buying a little bit of time here as we're 20 minutes to the U.S. markets opening, and price right now is just retracing back a little bit. But let's get a better look around. This is something that we were looking at yesterday. I didn't want to get involved in it, but we were looking at it. We were saying that when we were looking at all Australian dollar pairs, we were saying, well, this one looks interesting as it was coming back down into this area of support, that the move was pretty far overdone, and that we could definitely see here this turning. Now, I wasn't interested in this one because what we were interested in is Australian dollar versus the Swiss franc versus the Japanese yen, and lastly on that list was the U.S. dollar. But nevertheless, it's really important just to see, whether you take the trade or not, you picturing it in your mind and forecasting what is going to happen, and then watching that play out for the good or for the bad is what trains the mind, and it kind of resets those neurons. And that's what we need to be focused in on and doing. um, let's take a look around. Let's take a look at the US dollar, Japanese yen, and I'm looking here on the daily. So I could see here, first of all, a couple of things. I have this line of support over here, but I see this touchdown here. I see this touchdown here overnight, and then I see it back over to here. Obviously, that was, this just should be moved down. I'm just going to do that. So I have my own correct levels. And so that's nice, as that support's holding. Ultimately, nothing has changed here on the US dollar, Japanese yen. I see a couple of things. I'm going to point it out to you really quick. I see the triangle is still in effect, right? That's what's happening. Price continues to consolidate, and I'm waiting actually not for a break of that triangle per se, but a break of this yellow trend line. You can see it broke once here, another time here. Both those times failed. Here is the 109.71, the blue level, the line in the sand. We get above there, and I do want to be long. The reason I want to be long is because, remember, we remain dollar bulls. I know that a lot of everyone believes that all this Fed printing is going to go ahead and weaken the dollar, and why that is a possibility. We did publish a video on Monday on the U.S. dollar and an outlook on that, weighing both sides of the argument, whether or not we're going to see weakness or strength. And yes, the fact that the currency is being debased and it's losing purchasing power, but relative to everything else, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be stronger. There is that shortage of dollars and demand for dollars. Listen, if you want to go ahead and buy almost anything in the world, it's generally done in dollars. Debt, it's a debt-based system, and a lot of countries have enormous amount of debt that they need to service in dollars. So they need those dollars. And here we are as we're getting above this level of 99.78 over here. This is where we get really bullish the dollar again. Obviously, first we need to take out the 101 level. And if we do, we're coming back up, or we should be coming back up, testing the 103 level. If we do break above there, I don't know what could happen. The Fed has thrown a lot at the dollar, and look what has happened. Think about it just in context. The $4 trillion in expansion of the balance sheet, another $2.1 million in stimulus out of the US Gov. And then you also had the swamp lines opened up directly to banks. And yeah, the dollar came off a little bit. But here it is resuming back up again. If it breaks this level, who knows what's going to happen? And even going back to the US dollar, Japanese yen, I'm just going to take the technicals. When I say take the technicals, if we break this 5-year trend line resistance again, right, for the third time, maybe the third time's the charm, and get back above this 109.71 level, I do like it there, because if we do clear the 112.19 level up here, so figure 103 on the DXY, right, breaking, I don't know what could happen to the upside, right? Markets that become overbought tend to stay overbought for an extended period of time. A lot of traders will be caught off on the wrong side. Going back to this also brings us here to the Euro US dollar. And I need to look at the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and just look at the US dollar, Mexican dollar as well. But going back over here, we looked at this on Monday also in the video discussing the US dollar outlook, that, the euro here let's look at a bigger chart. Let's look at a weekly chart. The euro could definitely be set to break down over here, especially if we take out the recent low of 106.34, right? At that point, what happens? We're going to come down. We're going to test the low down over here at 103.50, right? Is that going to hold? If it doesn't hold, forget about it. This thing is selling off hardcore, and listen, the euro's in a little bit of jeopardy here. If someone like Italy leaves, you're going to see a waterfall of people wanting to leave, and yeah, the pressure in the next coming 12 to 18 months could be on some type of fragmentation in Europe. So a lot of factors at play. A lot of people are long the euro. We could see the commitment of traders has it positioned extremely long right now. Again, I think those traders are wrong, and we'll see what happens. I'm not saying jump into euro shorts. This was an entry right over here for you to get short, right? We said the break of the support line over here at yesterday, 109.20. That's the area to start getting short, looking for a test down over here and see what happens. And there it is. I see Hanero's here. Let's check out the chart he shared with us this morning. First, I'm sorry, I have to read the comment so I know what's going on. Made a killing this morning with all the volatility, and it's a great market. Boom, trading the euro, Japanese yen, US dollar, Japanese yen, and pound, Japanese yen. Let's get to the magic. Let's get to the chart, which is what I want to see. And let me pull this up. We have about another 13 minutes. The anatomy of a trade. All right, this is the pound Japanese yen. We're looking here at the anatomy of a trade. I love, just first of all, bearish momentum. I love how this chart is marked up. This is completely beautiful textbook. Appreciate you sharing this, Hanero, for everyone to get a look at what's going on over here. And I look forward to the day that actually you are able on the live stream to break this down for us. But more often than not, I'm able to kind of get into your mind. So let's see. First thing he noticed is bearish momentum. I just want, at the same time, I just want to pull up a chart and get my normal view of the pound Japanese yen before we get into it. So let me do that. All right. So what I am looking at over here, and I'm going back to yesterday's live session, and we were looking at this, and we were saying, get below this support, and this thing looks like it's rolling over. We also did just note that, it looked like there was more potential and better opportunity on the New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar. But this was coming into a big area of resistance, and it looked like it was actually rolling over. This was the trigger. I have it at 134.68, 69. All right, here we are. So Hanero's noting bearish momentum. I see over here the strong resistance. This is the trigger point. All right, so look, this is the trigger point for the trade, the strong resistance line. Then over here, he's got strong. So this was support until it was broken, by the way. This was first support. Here, when it breaks, it becomes that strong resistance. We'll look at that in a minute. Strong support. All right. So this is probably where he's looking to take his profits down over here. Let's check it out. So this line over here, this 135, that's pretty much in line with, I had it a little lower. Whatever. Here we go. I like this trend line a lot over here. And the reason I like this trend line over here, and you can see the reason he added it was because of this over here, this price action. Now, because as you're short into this trade, if you break above this trend line, that's an automatic exit. So that's I like that exit a lot. Let's see what happened. Once you broke resistance, this was, or support, broke support, now resistance, right? Come down over here. As you come back up into, we looked at this on the Euro US dollar this morning. We look at it a lot on this channel. Retest, no wick at the top for the next 10, no wick up. It didn't even wick above here, right? As we come back down, there's the entry. Missed the trade here and waited for the next opportunity. All right, so here you go. This is awesome. Now, obviously, as you get the breakdown of the support here, you get the retest of that broken support as resistance. As you come back down, this is where you're looking for the entry. Now, he didn't get the entry, so he waited, missed the opportunity. So he waited. So look at this next one. This became the support. Again, now here broke and then was tested again as resistance, and he saw the structure. What is the structure? You see it keeps taking out supports, testing that support as resistance, come back down, test that support again, right? Breaks down, test that broken support as resistance again. Here's where he came in for the scalp and took it. So taking the profit right down as he came back, testing the support. And this is exactly the area that I want to focus in on with you over here, because this happened twice. When I say twice, what I mean by that is here you had the breakdown, the retest, and as it resumes, that's the entry. And then over again, it happened over here, the breakdown, retest, and here's where Hanero got in and take profit. So thanks, Hanero, for sending that over. Let me get this off. John, good to see you. DJ. All right, so we are now 8 minutes to U.S. equity markets open. Let's pick on them and see what they're doing over here. Again, you got to watch New York. Watch New York. See what they do. All right. So where now that we've broken down, let's add this over here. This was resistance. This was support. This is the breakdown. So let's add this in as a resistance line. Right. This is the resistance. Here we're coming back. This is where this was support. Here's where it broke. This is the area to watch. Get back above this. Get back above this line this morning today. You gotta think that this then was reversed, and you got to get pretty bullish here on the indices, even though they're down going into the New York right now. Look where this leveled out over here. Look what my mouse, just follow the mouse to the left, and you see two things. You see this area, which was resistance, so above it was support, and then this where support was tested. So let's also at the same time go ahead and add that in. All right, there you go. That's what we're tracking. Get below this support again today, and we're opening it up for some more extended gains. Right now, what we're watching is if we get a retest of this resistance to make sure it holds and reverses downwards, then we'll see some continuation. Um, let's check in on the Australian dollar pairs because that's and New Zealand dollar because that's where we were focused in yesterday, and you could see as we here on the trigger on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, I was saying was not off the top, but below this area of support now turned resistance and price now coming down. And you could see again, it's right now into some local support. Why do I see that? You see all the resistance over here. You see the support there, and that's where price is trading right now. Get below this area. If this support doesn't hold over here, again, this is an area we got to think about moving your stop to break even. I wouldn't take profits. I'm giving, give it room to see if it breaks down over here. Unless it starts reversing up, then you can go ahead and take some off the table. But if it breaks down this level, right, then we got further support down here. So now it's time to start drawing all these things in. Let's check out the Australian dollar, Swiss franc. There's the key right there, patience. There's the key right there is patience. And you saw that on the look at the pound Japanese yen that Hanero shared. He missed the first one and he just didn't jump in and chased it. He waited for that structure to play out again on the lower leg down. And once he saw that support break again and then it retested as resistance, as it resumed down, he got in. That's patience. So it was very, very, very good trading. Here, the Australian dollar, Swiss franc, also into the rolling off the area of resistance. You could see it. You could see down over here it broke down and is testing now this area of support. Let me show you that on the 1 hour. You could see maybe the 4 hours better. Look at it. You could see over here this area of resistance, and then over here it's support, and you could see that price broke down above it and is now testing that area. So let me get that in over here. All right. And we'll see what happens this morning. Again, watch out for New York. So you want to check out WTI? I mean, we looked at this yesterday and we were saying that we were looking for a retest and or break of the lows, that the production cut wasn't going to cut it. That's what's happening right now. I know a lot of people are stepping in here to buy oil. We looked at this during the live stream yesterday, and we just noted it doesn't really make sense to step in and buy oil because everything is going against it. There's an enormous amount of oversupply, which is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 million barrels per day. The demand is not there. We're in a global slowdown, which really has no foreseeable end in sight. And worse than that is that if you start buying oil here because you think $20 is cheap oil, well, if you like it at 20, you're going to love it at 14. And, if you're patient and wait, maybe, why probably 14, and we do have a real possibility of trading on that low. And it doesn't mean that would be the low, but it's a lot more attractive here. I think right now you're in a severe downtrend. The downtrend is warranted with the global slowdown, with the lack of demand. And I think that you want to be looking to sell any rallies into resistance rather than picking bottoms and trying to buy a bottom. So, trade smart, right? Which means in downtrends, sell off of resistance and do not try to pick bottoms, right? Is there a possibility that oil trades back up to $35 or $40 and you make 100% on this trade? Yeah, but anytime soon, I don't think so. I think you get caught holding that trade for a long time. So it really doesn't make too much sense. So it's Jim Rogers. Why catch the anvil? Wait for it on the ground and pick it up. There you go. Right. But yeah, Jim Rogers had this famous quote, and he says, he just waits until there's money in the corner of the room and then goes over there and picks it up. Right. And you just got to wait until something's glaringly obvious. And then you go ahead and you pick it up and don't try to get ahead of it anytime. Dinkar, let's check out the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. And then I also need to look at the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and the US dollar, Mexican peso. So, I mean, again, we were looking at this yesterday and we said we're into resistance. However, it doesn't look attractive. The reason it doesn't look attractive is because you're playing two weak pairs versus each other, right? That's not where the gains are going to be made. The gains are going to be made playing a strong pair versus a weak pair. So both of these are weak pairs, right? The strong pairs are the risk off pairs. And as you came into resistance, that's where you look to attack. These two are just battling it out right now. Definitely rejected off this resistance over here, but you have a line of support right down there. Let me go ahead and change this and draw that in. So I just wouldn't focus my attention over here. Because it's two weak pairs versus each other, and it's there's not much else to say, Dinkar. If you see something else going on, let me know. We'll dig into it and we'll look at it. I'll keep it up on there. US dollar, Canadian dollar, or look at that move on the peso. Again, this is just so tightly correlated to the S&P. We were discussing that yesterday. And the reason we were discussing that is because the S&P yesterday was up. This was down. Here you go. You see the reverse. You also have a bit of the dollar bid helping out over here. And that thing is just looking like fire. The US dollar, Canadian dollar, I'm kind of excited to take a look at over here. I didn't get on this trade, and I wish I did. And there it is. I don't even know where you put that. It doesn't really matter. Put it up higher. So beautiful exit to the upside over here. We were definitely watching this yesterday, looking for this to happen. Here it is, coming back up into this area of resistance next. Let's see what happens. Get back above this resistance and look and wait. So I missed this trade. I'm not in this trade. And if I get above this resistance here and then I get a retest and a resumption, well, that's a safe entry for me to get in, and I'll wait for that. Right. That's how I'll approach it. I'll just leave that note up there anyway for later. So that helps me out being reminded. Yep. Jim, I wish I could highlight that comment. And absolutely. I wish we had the notes that I get my hand on of all the things that are most important here. Want to look at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. This was one of our main pairs we looked at yesterday. as opportunity to take advantage of today, as we were coming off of this resistance over here. Trade not only has triggered, but came into this area of support, right? So let's drill down a little further. Let's go down first to the 4 hour. The reason I'm going down to the 4 hour over here is I'm going to add just a little bit of a line over here, a line of what I could call like local resistance. And if we come back up there and test that breakdown, right, and then resume off of it, that will be another opportunity to get short over here on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and then maybe come down and retest this again. Get below this support down here. This opens up some further downside, and there's plenty of opportunity. Right now, if you get back above this line, right now your stop should be back at break even. And you get back above this line, you might want to take profits on that trade, even though they may be only, what is that? I don't know what it is, 15, 25 pips, because get back above this resistance over here. And it looks like we're coming back up. So, get back above this area of the breakdown. And it does look like we have the possibility to come back up. You could check that out here on the S&P. As we are now 4 minutes into the opening, we've come back up off the first support and we're coming into this resistance. This resistance needs to hold here. Otherwise, if it's a failed breakdown, we're coming back up and we're going to be taking a look at 2809. All right. So again, New York has been notorious for reversing trends, regardless of what the data is. That's why trading the news doesn't make any sense. You want to be aware of it always. We want to factor it into our analysis, but you see many times where you get a certain print and then you see the market go the other direction. It doesn't make any sense. That's why a lot of traders get burnt on the news, because they just trade off the news print rather than the price action itself. So New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Let's take a look at her. Let's get up to speed. Strong rollover over here. Wow, that looks nasty. That looks nasty. And it looks like it's going to continue. Go US dollar, right? Go US dollar. That's what we were looking for. So this is why it pays to be patient on gold. Also, it pays to be patient all around until you get that clarity where you are able to step in there and pick up that anvil. Here we're watching the DXY as we pull back. Let me see what that looks like on the euro. Let me see if it's giving it another opportunity, perhaps. And I'll draw in as local resistance over here. Starting at this support, then it was resistance, then it was support. Here's where it broke down. That's the area. Bounce off of that, and is it's an opportunity for a continuation of this trend down. This is very light local support and resistance number that I'm drawing in over here. This is the heavy support down over here. It's down at 107,760. It looks to me that there's a strong possibility, as long as we stay below this support over here. Let me make this bigger for you so you can see it. As long as we stay below this area of which is now resistance at 0.1092, then it looks like we're coming down into this support area over here next to test it. So if we can't get above this line here, I'll make this darker. If we can't get above there and we roll over, that looks like a good place to add to a position as we roll over and come down further. Julio, let's check that out in 1 second. Jermaine, what's going on? Thank you, Blair. Thanks for that heads up over there. Do appreciate that for Canadian dollar traders. Can't imagine anything the central bank says could be supportive of the Canadian dollar at this point, but will love to watch how the market reacts off of it. Julio, let's check out first the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. John, which pair did you go short at 68? 76, 73. Well, let me drop down to the 8 hour over here, get a better look at what's going on. I'm watching your level at 76, 73. Yeah, I'm gonna pull that up a little bit. So I mean, Julio, is it so? Is it again? It's an art. It's not a science. I'm not trying to say that you're wrong or anything like that because you're not. But I am being a little bit more precise. So I'm looking. This is where I'm looking at right here. Right. This was the breakdown. See where my mouse is at 76.85. You could see this last support touch over here. Price came down, tested it over here, 2 pips above, right? And so I'm putting it right there. Watch. That's why I'm putting it there. You see this? This is the resistance. This is it tested as support. Here it missed it by 2 pips, but here where it broke down, Julio, and then came back up. So this is now the resistance right there. All right. So yeah, I mean, same page, tiny bit tweak, but that's where I put it at 76.85. Get back above that. This move has been reversed, right? Got to take your profits if you're short this trade or get out of the trade. But right now, and hold on, if you stay below this little bit of area right here, that last little bit swing support, you stay below there and get reversed here, that's very, very bearish momentum. All right. Hope that makes sense. I hope that's a good look at it and a clear way to see how to trade that. Never underestimate the dollar. I agree. I want to see what's going on now because we are about 10 minutes into the open. Time is kind of slowing down over here. But let's check back over on the S&P. Let's see whether or not or what they're doing. All right, we've come back in and we've tested this broken support holding as resistance right now. Come back up. Let's see if we get any type of indication of that holding and a rollover. Obviously the beginning of the U.S. equity markets open are very volatile. Whether it's the first 20 minutes, first 40 minutes, they tend to be very volatile. Just watching that on the 5-minute over here, if we're able to get back above this resistance over here, see that touch over there, and then over here is where it came back down into. So that's why I'm just putting that line of resistance right there. That's why I'm doing it, right? And get back above that level. All right. And New York turned it around, and let's see what happens. How far, we'll see what happens from there. If this gets rejected, then we're looking for a possible continuation and a retest of the daily low. We'll see if we take it out or not. Yeah, I mean that's still that's like looking at Michelangelo's masterpiece of the Sistine Chapel and being like, hey, you kind of missed the spot right there. There's nothing, but it's important to find tweak, and that's all we're doing right there. That's what we're here for. Work together, always looking to learn and be improving. I know that I am always looking to up my game. I'm always looking to see where I could learn, where I could improve. And, in the beginning, that might be like, some glaring, easy, obvious things. You trade way too big, you trade way too often, and then later on it becomes just fine tweaks that are ever so important, even if that's reminding yourself that patience pays. Australian dollar, US dollar, we haven't looked at yet this morning. Let's take a look. All right, so obviously there's got a lot of bearish momentum over here. The first area that we need to watch what happens is this area of support down there. All right, not much to add or say overall, and you can see where my mouse is. All right, that deserves to have that resistance right there. Let me draw that in, and then why? Just obviously support. You see the wick down, and then it closed up there. Support, broken support, resistance. So we'll keep that line over there. What's next? Ooh, let's take a look at her. Good. Oh, here we are. No, this is Australian dollar. Like where your attention was focused. 68.41. Look at that, John. Hold on. Beautiful entry, because you entered as that local support was taken out. Rejection of the resistance once that local support was taken out. That's the beautiful entry. And not only that, it's such a good entry because right now you're wrong if you come back to entry, actually, right? Because if you get above this area, I have it at here at 68.33, right? Then at that point you could say, oh well, we didn't hold that local resistance. That's not a good sign. We're probably coming back up and testing the high again. Right. And more importantly, for managing a trade, right? Here we are. We came in and we tested. This is support. I hope it turns to resistance. Right now, that's support, right? Drop down to the 1 hour. Let's take a look, right? Given that trade room. If I were in this trade, a lot of traders might come in here, stand here, and take profit over here. Hopefully, the trade was entered into pieces, into 2 or 3 pieces. So you have the opportunity as you're down here to maybe take a small piece off, give that trade room. You don't have to, you could move your stop now to break even, or perhaps even lock in a few pips, because you get back above 68.40. You're wrong on the trade, and you get out of break even. But you're giving yourself room here as even 68, around 68. I don't want to get too tight, but around that area right here of 68.15 and between a few pips, more or less. That's a good place at this point to lock into profit. But you want to give this room. If you break down the support, if you're able to break down the support, at that point, this trade becomes a beautiful, beautiful trade with massive profit potential in there. So well done. Good trading. Let's check our out. Beautiful rejection. Good luck over there. Shasham. And yes, and now, let's see what happens if we're able to take out those lows. That would be a very good sign. Let me pull up to the 15-minute. See, in the early trading, you want to be on the smaller time frame over here. And that does look very, very nice. That should mean the dollar's continuing, the yen and the Swiss franc moves are also now continuing. Excellent. CAD coming into a pretty important area over there. Euro, Japanese yen is in a pretty precarious place. This area, let's look on a bigger, higher time frame over here together. Let's check out the weekly time frame. You could see over here, first of all, you could see that this area of, let me draw it in, that area of support. If we lose this area of support and put it right down there, right? It looks like we're going to be testing that again. If we break down over there, that opens up significant downside potential. All right, I would say 112.50. Let me just also draw that in there as a guide. Again, it's my belief the euro will soon be under some pretty significant pressure. I know a lot of traders are long. Maybe they're right. That's a market. I don't believe they are. Oh, okay. So first of all, that explains this counter move here on the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. Traders squaring up before the interest rate decision. That makes a lot of sense. That looks like actually it could be providing actually an opportunity to get back over here. WTI going long. You guys are just pumping out information to try to keep up with you. I have no idea what Vortex Forex is. Jesse, careful there. That's a retrace right now into resistance, right? It's a retrace right now into resistance. You get back above the resistance at 21. All right, maybe you're seeing a little bit of a trend change. Draw that in there. This yellow line is obviously the bigger. Let me. So we are about 10 minutes now from the Bank of Canada interest rate decision. Is that correct? Let's see. They're expected to be on hold. It's more about what the statement includes. I can't imagine things are going well in Canada that they could have any type of positive uh, statement. You know, especially with Canadian crude. Last I knew, it was trading around $5. I assume it's trading probably pretty close to there right now. I'm going to pop also at the same time the US dollar, Canadian dollar. So we could, as we get closer to that rate decision, could watch how price reacts. See if there's any opportunity. It looks like right now going into the decision, price is retracing a little bit, perhaps offering a possible entry. I mean, you could, where price is right now, you could see this little touch over here, which was support, this area of support, then or resistance. So you kind of pulled back into a little bit area of local support. Now, I will not take this trade right before a live, it was not even a live meeting, but a central bank rate decision, because there's no need to be that aggressive. This looks like obviously a place to lean into. Let's see if we go down even to a shorter time frame as price is going to be moving. Let's see. Yeah, that looks a little bit better down here as well. We'll watch this play out in real time and become better traders because of it. All right. Those are a couple areas to watch. If price is able to start making higher highs off of, it does open up an opportunity, especially here. If you start making higher highs, you have an opportunity to get long with a tight stop. If we lose this and we continue down, we'll have another look at support. Below that, I would stand aside. Do you have further? Yeah, I'll just focus in over there. And there's the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. I'm going to also pull up to the 15-minute over here just because of 15 minutes probably the appropriate time frame to trade right now if you're involved in either one of those pairs. And here we are now, almost 20 minutes into the US equity markets opening, and price looks like it's settling in elsewhere, waiting to see what happens next. I wish I could, I don't know why this doesn't work on TradingView. I wish I could be looking at the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and the US dollar, Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. For whatever reason, I don't know how to figure that out. Here we are. Beautiful, Henry. Love to hear that. Absolutely, 100%. My pleasure. That's what we're here for. Obviously, all you need to do is go ahead and show your thanks by just smashing that like button. That's all. That's all that's need. So Squirrel huge. Let's check it out. But if the news already hit, the move's done. Right? Something's up 146%, and you can consider that done, right? Oh my goodness. If that's actually, well, I don't know. Amazon's buying them out. I have no idea what they're buying them out for. Listen, this is not something that I would get involved in whatsoever. More often than not, by the time the news hits, if you're not involved in the trade, you can't chase after that. You're the one who's missing out and behind on that. You got right now probably a lot of I guess like 20 years ago I traded, or 19 years ago I traded in an equities prop firm. This is not anything that we would touch. The volume's not there. There's no way that we would even be involved in a play like this on a day like this. Look, I think you're better off staying away. That's pure gambling. The stock's up, you saying 146% so far, and the news is hit. There's no edge there whatsoever. I would stand aside. At best, just watch for just educational purposes how price reacts the rest of the day. But that would be gambling at this point. There's no rhyme or reason to go ahead and get involved in over there. Speaking of gambling, let's check out Tesla. Tesla's up on the day where the markets are down. So that's pretty cool. Jesse, what are you doing? Oh, that looks pretty neat. All right. This could be setting up here for an island reversal. If we gap down tomorrow on Tesla, that would be a safer place to get short than over here. Even with this gap up now and trading down, it's kind of a good place to short, because you could just hit a stop in at today's high. If that's taken out, okay, you're wrong, but that looks inviting and interesting. So that last time, let's see if we come back down and test that trend line again. We looked at yesterday. You're into this area of resistance. Gapped up today, trading down. Oof. Interesting play over there on Tesla. We're about 4 minutes away from the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision. Let's check in on right now. You could see on the 15-minute here. Again, right there. I'm not trading this. I don't suggest anyone trade it. If you're taking a long entry here as you start making the higher high, we were looking at the 15-minute with a stop down over there. That's a possible trade. Same thing over here. Expect some volatility. I think it's way too aggressive of a trade, and there's just so much more opportunity that's safer that I'd rather take, but we're going to watch it play out nevertheless. There's no way I would look actually to long the Canadian dollar no matter what happens on either of these. The only thing I would be looking for as going into the interest rate statement, I say decision, but it's the statement is because unless they have a surprise cut, is because the probability that the Canadian dollar strengthens out of this is on the low end. Momentum to both is against the Canadian dollar, as well should the decision be. So, if you're going short the Canadian dollar against either of these pairs, that makes sense. Doesn't mean you'll be right. The stops could be taken out on a whiplash, and or who knows, the Canadian dollar could strengthen if all of a sudden the Bank of Canada says, hey, things are looking good, but nevertheless you wouldn't take that side of the trade. I don't. I'll trade the S&P. Well, John, what works on Owanda? I don't trade the Nasdaq. Happy to look at her, but I don't trade her. Nasdaq has been the leader on the way up, and is actually, or I believe yesterday was almost green on the year. There's January 1st. Or just almost green on the year, which is amazing, being that we're in this, enormous global pandemic slowdown. But here you are, and I think we're coming towards a phase where we might see a little bit of consolidation in the indices, right? You could see, if you're familiar with what's going on in the DXY, as price is corking, ready for the next move. We might also see in the next coming week a little bit of consolidation over here. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but we've seen some pretty strong volatility of late. And usually what happens after that strong volatility is you get some consolidation before the next move. Again, I focus in over here for trading on the S&P though, and although I'm happy to look at the Dow or the Nasdaq, I don't trade them. We are now at the Canadian dollar interest rate decision. Let's see what happens. First, let's make sure they kept rates on hold. As they did. How does price react? So far, those swing lows that took place right before the decision are holding in place. Wait right now to see on the 15-minute if we break higher or lower. Could that be an entry signal if you break lower on the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, or higher on the US dollar, Canadian dollar? It could be. Again, I don't recommend taking these trades, but watching it here happen and unfold in real time. You could see that there has not been any type of big repricing here. And this just goes back to the trend of the day. The trend of the day is obviously up a dollar versus the Canadian dollar. Right there would be a long entry, stop right here. And it was a pullback into that first local swing support. So as you start making higher highs off of it, that's an indication of an entry. Vice versa, this is a downtrend today as we came up and tested this swing area of resistance, right? As you resume off it, that is the entry as well. And that's trade. There you go. Thanks, Blair. Again. But that's what trading is, right? And you're looking this hang out on a higher time frame, on the 8-hour time frame, but here it is unfolding on the shorter time frame. Right. And the reason I trade on the higher time frame is it's just easier in the fact that there's only 3 signal periods a day, right? 24 hours a day divided by 8 is 3. I avoid Asia. That only leaves 2 signal periods a day, as well as if you're trading the 15-minute here or the 30-minute one, you have to be really focused for an extended period of time, which is really not easy to do. To be able to stare at a chart for 3 hours intensely, especially while you're on the internet, right? Do you browse? Do you start reading things? Are you that focused on just the chart that you could handle and do that? You have to know where your strengths are, and it's really difficult to do. Day trading is very difficult to do, but same patterns play out. Press conference is scheduled for 30 minutes from now. Generally speaking, FOMC, what you'll see is the initial move continue for the first 15, 20 minutes, and then a pullback in price up until the press conference. And then generally as the press conference ends is when you see that initial move resume. Again, there's no need to be trading this. Never, it's great. Perfect today to look at, though, happening real time as a learning exercise. Oh, well, got it. It should here. I mean, I could send a ticket, right? I could send a ticket to TradingView, I guess, and figure this out. Let me try this. See, it doesn't work. It pulls up Bitcoin on the other one. I'm not syncing the charts. So whatever. But let's pull back up the US dollar, Canadian dollar, just to watch that unfold. And Jesse, we're going to check in on WTI in 1 second. All right. Over here, S&P is still maintaining their bearish bias, especially as this resistance from pre-market has held and rolled over. A break below the low will definitely send us down further. We're already down almost 3% on the day. Definitely the pressure remains. Dollar's strong. Let's turn back to the oil over here. And oil right now is into an area over here where my mouse is, a pivot on a different chart, into resistance. And then I got bigger resistance up here towards 21. So, Jesse, in downtrends, we sell resistance, right? That's, and listen, there's an opportunity. Go back over here. You see this trend line break over here? Like when you had the trend line break, we this is in our during a live stream, I added that arrow, this yellow line over there. I said, if we break this trend line, we're going to shoot up. Okay. So hours later, we broke that trend line off of the support and we shot up. Right. So I'm not saying you can't ever trade off of a low, but you got to have every reason to do it. Otherwise you are picking a bottom. And the worst thing that could happen is oil right now. This is the low and trades up, to 23. Why is that the worst thing that could happen? Because that just ingrained into your mind. Because as humans, our psychology remembers when things work out and tends to forget the times they don't. And that's going to ingrain into your brain that you should pick bottoms, because your brain is going to remember the time that you picked the bottom on WTI and it worked out. All right. So this is where the discipline of trading comes in. And discipline is not so much sticking to your stops. That's more basic. Discipline is ingraining the correct behavior into your psyche. No, Martin, I'm not in the Euro US dollar, and I greatly wanted to be in the Euro US dollar, as you all know. So what do? I gotta get back. I gotta wait and get back into that trade. I slept on this. Sometimes you make mistakes. You can't get into every trade. I'm focused more right now on Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar pairs. This is something that I really wanted because I did believe, right, that a breakdown of this bear flag was going to lead to a test of this support down here and a possible breakdown. And if we break this low over here, then we're going to really start bleeding. And I do believe that could all happen. But I'm not going to just jump in over here now short. I will wait and I will position in at the appropriate time. So Canadian dollar, Japanese yen extending their gains to the downside and upside a little. Blair appropriately and astutely noted that you do have that press conference coming up at 10:30. Now, why it's my belief that could only be bearish on the Canadian dollar, anything that they say, because things are just not going well. Generally, with speakings, again, you have the initial reaction, hold for about 20 minutes, and then up until the press conference start, it's normal to get a little bit of a retrace. And generally speaking, after the press conference concludes, and the reason being for this is because after the press conference concludes, there's no, as the press conference starts, that move generally continues again up until the question and answer portion. At the question and answer portion, basically things could be shared that the market does not yet know of. You usually see retracements during that period and or volatility until after the session concludes. If nothing new was shared, then you see a resumption toward the original move, which in this case will be up, and in this case will be down. Martine, beautiful. It was a beautiful setup. Wish I was definitely involved in that. Josephat, Euro Japanese yen, very bearish right now and coming close to some pretty important support that if it loses could see much lower lows. Um, just drawn it earlier on a different chart. I don't like that my trading view charts don't sync like that, but just eyeball it over here. You could see this area of support and this area of support. If we start losing that, let me come down to a weekly chart over here. All right, so I have, here it is. I'll draw this in and then I'll press save this time. We're coming down and testing again an area of interest, an area of support all the way down right now here at 119.28. No, I'm sorry, that's 115.67. If we break below that, then it opens up for us 112.58 area. All those are a possibility. Again, I'm not a fan of the euro. Now, the traders say different. Traders are positioned long the euro. Commitment of traders has an abnormally large long position in the euro. People, ever since the Fed has gone ahead and begun QE infinity, expanding their balance sheet, are really getting bearish on the dollar. I'm bullish on the dollar, but just always aware for what could go wrong. But there's not much to say on the euro Japanese yen right now, only because you had a couple. This was the first of all the sweet spot for the entry all the way up here as you came into resistance, and then you had this bear flag. So the break of this bear flag up here at 118, 50 or 118.30 was the entry, right? This is now you're managing a trade, but you don't want to go short over here. You're chasing momentum if you go short over here. Emmanuel, welcome. Good to see you. Hey, listen, glad you stumbled in upon us. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed to this channel. We live stream every day, Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. It's a good place to be. It's a good place to hang out. It's a good place to learn. It's a good place to share. Definitely go ahead and do that. A buy on the euro Japanese yen. I can't see that. The reason I can't see that is, we're in a global slowdown, which is bullish for the yen, extraordinarily bearish for Europe. Europe is going to be in a confirmed recession. Not only that, there's a lot of there's a lot of infighting, should we say. It won't, the pressure on Italy leaving the EU, as Italy's economy is sinking and the people are angry. That, how do you pacify the people? Well, you blame it on the EU, and then you talk about leaving the EU. And then if they do leave the EU, that just opens up the floodgates for other member nations to leave also. Things could get ugly in Europe. And more importantly, I don't see who'd want to own euros over dollars at this point. That could change, right? I could understand the argument for people looking for a weaker dollar, and definitely watching for that to happen. But at the same time, we're very bullish, and very bullish if we close above this resistance today at 99.80. At that point, that would be just very bullish on the dollar. And again, right now, as long as we're above the closest support that held overnight at 98.85, then it's just has a bullish bias towards it. So, and then you have the fuel to the fire of a lot of traders long on the euro right now, because as that goes against them, they're going to have to cover. That adds up more selling of euros. Jim, good trading, buddy. Have a great rest of the day, and thank you. Yeah, let's check out Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is in let me pull it up over here. I think we'll be able to see it. There it is. All right. Bitcoin right now, first of all, I'm going to just step back and give a good look at Bitcoin. And first of all, this triangle over here, which we broke down out of that trend line support over here during the liquidity crisis. All right, we broke down out of that triangle, which if we never had that liquidity crisis, I don't think ever would have happened. All right, so what are we doing now? Well, we probably put in we put in a low outside of I think the Fed has done enough to prevent any type of near-term liquidity crisis. I'm not saying one's not going to happen down the road, but I don't think one's going to happen any day now, which means that a floor is probably put into Bitcoin over here. And that should give it enough time, actually, as we get close to not only having, but the beginning of the bull market phase, for Bitcoin to go ahead and put it in enough of a cushion where it never has to worry about that again. Now, Bitcoin on the immediate, in the near term right here, is trading inside of a bull flag. You could see this is the low, and now we're trading up since. This is a bull flag. So I expect once we break out of here to the upside, that we're able to retake and regain this triangle trend line, which is now resistance. Once we regain that resistance, that's going to be very bullish for Bitcoin. I think right now, if you get a test down here of this lower trend line support, which coincides with this area of support, so I have it around 6,400. The horizontal trend lines support a little bit higher at 6,480. That's the place to lean in to buy. Why? Because you know where you're wrong. Get out of the trade. Your risk is very limited. Ultimately, looking for a break up here to the upside out of this. And I do think that a breakout above there will lead us to regaining this trend line resistance, and then testing soon after to become support. And then after there, Is it possible we see even by the halving 9,000? Yeah, I think we're going to see in this area between 84.75 and 91. Before the halving, that's quite a gain in the next 30 days. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened at all. And obviously, I'm giving a guesstimate here. I'm not saying that it's going to actually play out like that in the exact time frame I gave it, but more or less that I do, and I think that's that we're looking at. And then I think what you're going to see in the time afterwards is price not losing this trend line again, right? And then some point between the halving and the following 3 months, you're going to see us break out above the top trend line 10,400 and this trend line resistance, which goes all the way back to the all-time high in Bitcoin. I don't need to go back to it of 19,400. Once you break this trend line here to the upside, whenever that happens, that is when we're going to say that the bull market phase of Bitcoin has begun. Wow. As far as what I'm looking at to get into soon, so the whole point here is to teach you how to be able to identify trends and setups yourself, so that you're able to recognize a trade and get into it yourself. So it does take a little bit of commitment on your side, meaning that you got to put in the time. It doesn't take too long. It's like riding a bicycle. Seems really difficult at first, but before you know it, it becomes pretty easy. I want you, by spending time in here together, be able to recognize the setups that we're seeing and be able to know how to act on them yourself. By me telling you what to buy and what to sell, what I'm buying and selling is not going to lead to any success on your part. You don't have the ability to not only get into trades but exit them as I would, because I'm not there holding your hand to do it. So this is US dollar, South African rand, and obviously this is kind of similar to the formation you're seeing on the US dollar, Canadian dollar, US dollar, Mexican peso. And here, as we've, in hindsight, because I wasn't looking at this beforehand, we pulled back as we have on the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and the US dollar, Mexican peso back into this area of support. Again, we expect further dollar appreciation and or becoming something of a wrecking ball. If that, the timing is everything. But as far as chasing this move now, look, this is a big move that happened over the last 3 days off support. You can't chase this now to the upside, and at the same time, you can't fade this, because this is a strong uptrend. Getting in the way of something like this and trying to trade against it doesn't make any type of sense. The best thing to do is wait for a pullback again into support. In an uptrend, you buy off of support, right? So you have to wait now for the next area of support to form and pull back into it to look to lean into that. Oh my goodness. Fire. It's definitely gambling. Fun to watch. Not anything to act on at all. Be very careful. No such thing as easy money. Remember that. It takes dedication, it takes effort, and it takes time. Otherwise, you will get burnt. Australian dollar, Japanese yen is obviously very, very bearish. We looked at that. That was the trade that we looked at yesterday. All Australian dollar pairs yesterday was the theme of yesterday's live stream. We were into resistance yesterday, heavy, strong resistance on all Australian dollar pairs, whether it was the euro, Australian dollar, Swiss franc, Australian dollar, Japanese yen. and Australian dollar, US dollar. And, that trade is now materialized. You're coming into an area of support now. All right. So if you didn't get into the trade, how do you get into this trade now? Let's look at that. I'm going to drop down to the 4-hour. So a couple of things could happen. If you break this support over here, right, probably come down into this area right there and then come back up. And if that holds, as that broken support holds as resistance, as you resume down, there's an opportunity to get short on this pair. If it plays out like that, that's an opportunity to get in. Now, this support might hold and we might come back up and we might test that local resistance. If you come back up there and test that resistance and then start resuming off of it, that's another opportunity to perhaps get short because you have a one-to-one risk back into the support. And then you could move your stop to break even and then maybe hopefully get a break. But right now, there's no trade. It's only managing a short trade that you're in from yesterday towards the top of this resistance, or as you broke down below that local, if that was your entry down there, that local support. S&P here testing the lows right now, the lows of the session. It made a lower low, so watch out at this point. If you make the lower low and don't continue momentum down, watch out what happens back over here. If you're able to take that out to the upside, at that point, you have to say that this current move to the downside has been put off for a little while, and we would come back up, test higher into the resistance around 2809 and or the resistance up at 2826. So look for an extension downwards, but now you have to be aware as you made a lower low that it extends down further. And if we reverse back up, then this is the near term bottom, and we have to watch what happens up at higher levels. So this is looking at the pound Australian dollar. Pound Australian dollar is in an uptrend. If I asked my 7-year-old daughter to look at this, she would be like, "Yeah, this is going up. It starts at the bottom here, and it's at the upper right here. This is an uptrend. In uptrends, you buy off of support. Here was the support down here. You can see that price has held the support, and then I was making higher highs than the previous price bars. Now I hang out on the 8-hour time frame, so I would say, whether it was first over here or down over here is my entry long on this pair, and now we're coming up, and everything looks groovy. At 9855. So you're taking the long. You're taking the long trade way too high. You see, you're taking that at local resistance, right? It's not heavy resistance, but it's local resistance. And that's where you're taking the long. The entry is all the way down here, right? Whether the entry was, over there or down here. That's the entry. And as you get into the resistance over here, you need to move your stop loss to break even. You're entering the trade at the resistance itself. So that's something to really focus in on. And that's an easy room for improvement. By making that change, you're going to go ahead and you're going to, you're going to improve your overall win rate and profitability by a large margin. Definitely do check out right here and see if this interests you. This is my Forex Trading Academy, and this will be enormous help for you, Mujahid. and definitely go ahead and look into that over there, because while you're seeing things correctly, some really important adjustments is really going to make all the difference in the world for you. I assume that the New Zealand dollar, the pound New Zealand dollar, is also very similar. Interesting, Angela. Both of you are attracted right now to those pairs, and you could see also same thing here. You could see that this isn't an uptrend. Price pulled back into support and is now resuming off the support and is in an area of resistance. Clear this area of resistance to the upside. This is all about managing a trade now. You have to know how to manage a trade. Do you take profit up here, or do you give this trade to room? If it breaks out over here, we're obviously going much, much higher. How do you know when to get out of this trade now that you're in it? Do you take profits up here into the resistance, or do you give it room to go? That's the important part of trading. Pound US dollar, come back, pull down, and so I have this resistance right there, right? Putting it down to the resistance right there, which is then area of I would call that support. This pulled back into support right now, and if this resumes upwards, this is a place to lean into buy. At the same time, if it breaks below this area, and I still have it as support because I'm above this area of resistance right here, if we break below it, then that opens up the room for really a breakdown towards the next level of real support, which is at 1.2183. So cautious over here. At the same time, here I'm looking at the 1 hour, right? And I would say my resistance is over here. All right. So you got to get back above there. Then at that point, then you could get long the pound US dollar. And until you get above there, though, I would look for this current move to the downside to resume. That's the area you need to focus in on. I'm going to just pause here for a second and take a sip of tea. So we are right now about 1 hour since the US equity is opening. They're right here at the lows of the session and testing a further breakdown. You could see over here, you could see right now we are at an area of local support. If we do crash through down here, look to us for us to hit another another percent lower pretty quickly. All right. Let's check back the US dollar, Canadian dollar. It has since, after press conference is starting right now, since the trigger, come back up, taking out that low. Let's watch what happens now as the press conference begins, and then as it ends as well. So we're about 90 minutes into the session. We got 70 people in here working together, which is awesome. I think sooner than later we're gonna hit 100. That'll be a huge milestone for the channel. I do appreciate everyone who who first of all is my team in here with me all the time. And anyone who's new, who's gaining anything out of this, go ahead and do show some support. Just go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up, which lets me know you appreciate what's being shared here for you, as well as helps the channel grow. Let me check it out, Martine. Glad you're in that trade. That's one that you all know that I was stalking and wanted to be in. There we go. This might give enough. This is why I don't chase things. You got to wait. You got to wait for things to play out. There's always opportunity as we're coming in now. And I can see we're testing now towards the bottom area over here. Look at this peak right there, right? That touch over there. And then I see that again, it touched right here. And then it touched right here. So that might be as high as we get. If we touched that high and rolled over, and then also right there, it touched again. So that's the area that we might, if things are very bearish, we would not get higher than that. Of course, I have the main resistance right above that as well. And if we come up to here and then roll over, that might be the place I pick to go ahead and enter into my short. Yeah, the free Telegram channel right here, where you're updated when we go live on the live stream, as well as any trade ideas that are shared later in the day. Jasper, let's check out the US dollar, Japanese yen. So I'm here on the 1 hour. You said it looks like it got rejected by resistance. I could see that clear resistance right over here where my mouse is. And yeah, it did get rejected by resistance. Now it's come down, and you can see that it's come down right now. You see these touches over here of resistance, support. So it's coming down, and then this is the last local swing. So it's into an area of support right now as well. Right? So do resume over here to the upside, and that's an area to get long. You could see that into the next area of resistance. You have a bit of room at 108.36 all the way down here. That's a big move on the US dollar, Japanese yen. We're trading now at 107.54. So speaking of, let's look at the dollar. I want to keep all this stuff up. Let's look at the dollar, see what it's doing, and you can see that it's coming down, and it's coming down, and it's testing an area of local support right now as well, where I have it horizontally here and this trend line. So this is where the dollar should hold. This is where we expect it will hold if it's going to hold. And we wanted to look at the pound US dollar also. Well, we just looked at the pound US dollar. Sorry about that. You just pull back on the live stream like 5 minutes until you get to the pound US dollar, because we just gave a really, really good look at the pound US dollar. Pound Japanese yen. Pound Japanese yen yesterday, we were looking for this thing to roll over. It has rolled over. We didn't think it was the best opportunity, in the fact that the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen definitely were looking. This is now resistance, this support, and you can see that we've come back up. Let me move this down just a little bit. And a little bit, I mean just a little bit. And you can see we're coming back up after this breakdown of support, testing it as resistance. If you start resuming down to the downside over here, this is a beautiful opportunity to get short here. Your risk is well defined. You know where you're wrong. Gold. Gold right now is at a, first of all, gold is trading above 1700. Super, super, super appropriate, being the amount of stimulus and expansion of the money supply. But right now, gold is consolidating. Gold has just had a move up. Anita pointed out the long right there. That was the entry, right? Then right here, you had a test, a break of the resistance, a test of the support. This is our textbook entry right there. Now, what's happening? You are consolidating after a leg up. What does that mean? Allow it to consolidate. Probably the next move is up, but that's not a certainty. You have over here the range you're in. Wait for price to finish consolidating. Wait for the break up, and you can get involved. It's not happening today. It's not happening right now, and that's not where you should focus your resources and or attention. You should be really focused on where you can put your money to good work. But right here, the pound, the gold is consolidating after a leg up. This usually is going to lead to another leg up. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if the dollar starts getting really strong and gold comes off a little bit. Is it possible we get another retest of this support? 100%. Is it possible we get another retest of this trend line? 100%. Is it possible we trade all the way down to 1550? Yeah. So you gotta, right now you're consolidating and there's no trade here, right? Unless you're long. If you're long over here, all you did is manage this trade. How do you manage this trade right now? You would now have your stop loss probably down here. You're wrong if we trade below here, right? That's probably where you would take profits. But at this point, with all the fundamentals screaming long gold, you probably want to give this trade further room. It's quite possible we trade back up pretty quickly, towards the highs over here of close to 1800, right over here around 1780 and or 1900. It's the environment. QE is underway. There you go, Xeron. There you go. Uptrend. Look to buy off supports. No, we just looked at, All right, we'll finish the session right here. Looking do have the S&P now pushing those lows, testing that breakdown. US dollar, Canadian dollar, definitely after taking out that low now. Wait for that press conference to end. That could be a long. We'll check out the euro US dollar again here. We just did not even 2 minutes ago. Listen, two things. First thing is we go live every day at 9:00 a.m. Not everyone can make it. Of course not. But YouTube does definitely go ahead and upload the full sessions. Do watch the replay when you get a chance. It's generally speaking, you're going to get the better education by going ahead and getting the full view of things rather than jumping in and looking at a pair. Right now, the euro US dollar, this is what we were looking at yesterday. We were talking about where were excuse me one second. All right, sorry. Do apologize about that. Here we go, though. Yesterday, we were looking here at the euro US dollar, and we're looking at this channel. This was a bear flag. So while we were looking for an opportunity to get involved in this bear flag, there were two possibilities. We did end up at this resistance over here, but I was looking for the top of this channel and resistance up here as a place to get short, or a breakdown outside of this channel to get short. Now, not only a breakdown out of that channel, I did say that if we broke out of that channel to the downside, the safe entry would be below this support. And here's the entry. Here's the textbook entry. Here's the break of support, came down into that next local support. trade it up into the resistance, that broken support as resistance, and there is the entry right there. Get back above that area of entry right now, and you get out of the trade. Wait to see if you come back up. If this does hold again, there's another area to get short. Get back above here, and you got to wait it out. Let's see if we get another retest up here of that trend line resistance. Again, two quickest ways to get up to speed is definitely, first of all, by spending. It doesn't take long. It does take some dedication on your part, right? It doesn't happen like overnight. But if you hang out in here, if you're observing, if you're watching, and if you have the mindset, you're looking, where could I get in now for a trade? You're far from turning the corner to profitability. If you have that mindset, if you want to listen, learn, and observe so that you could understand things for yourself, you're on the path. If you really want some type of acceleration towards your training and really want insight into the strategies I trade, then definitely go ahead and work with me one-on-one through the course, and that's really going to help you a lot. All right, everyone, this is a perfect place to call this a session today. More than anything, I have enjoyed it. I really enjoy working with you all. Those that have been here day in and day out for months, I do consider family, and I look forward to the new ones that definitely do join that. Have a beautiful day, everyone, and I look forward to sharing more with you tomorrow. Take care, be safe, be positive, be the light.